Angel and Heidi ho, everyone. Welcome aboard and happy hump day to you. Hope it's been a good one thus far and continues in that vein until it's not hump day anymore. To get over the other side, that would be good. I'm not here today, but I am opening the show for you. Ash will be in very, very shortly. But whilst he's getting the late mail and doing all things that he does at this time of the day, preparing for London Open, you've got me for the next 10 minutes or so. So whilst that is the case, let us go and do what we normally do at this time of day, and that's have a look at the pound versus the US dollar, cable as we know it. Okay, we are now in 3 long positions on pound US dollar. And the breakout that we got yesterday was minimal. Nice little retracement on that back to the daily pivot at the moment, so I'm not concerned about that trade per se. That said, if we do get a close and a lower high in here, I'll just close that trade and for a small loss. Well, if it goes really fast, might be the loss full stop. But if it does give me a lower high in here, already has off that little kind of reversal pattern. It's a little bit indecisive, I've got to say, but I do like the shape of the retracement. A little bit like a flag, which is a bull flag, and therefore you could expect potential new highs. We will see. As I say, I'll watch what price does if it gets below the daily pivot and may close that, as I say, at a small loss. The other two we are trailing, and we've got both stop losses below the weekly pivot here, both in profit, of course. That's about all there is to say, really, at the end of the day. I think the problem with trading a breakout today is where we are in vicinity to obstacles like the weekly pivot directly underneath us. It was there yesterday, I know, but we've also got today, if I go a little bit wider, we've also got, I thought we had a very strong level. Oh, we've also got 138. That was what I was considering. Okay, it's a figure, not a tested level, or not a tried and tested level, let me put it that way. But I have got it on my chart here as 138.50. So that's kind of the problem that I have. I've got resistance to the high side. I've got support to the low side, remembering that we have to get 1-to-1 before we move our stops. G'day, Lewis. Hi, Paul P. Yes, I'm surprised to be here, Paul P, I've got to say. No, it's something that Ash needs to do every morning, and I'm facilitating that. He gets the late mail by way of what's happening in the world, what might affect the FTSE, in particular the heat map as it turns on, and he gets ready for the day. So for that reason, I'm here and will be next week as well. Just to start the show, then I'm going to piss off. Okay, so no breakout trade today on the pound. We'll see what we do. We'll manage the 3 that we've already got in the market. I don't anticipate we'll do anything with the first 2, but the third 2 we may if we get a lower high in here somewhere, because that will tell me that this may well reverse. Okay, so that's pound US dollar sorted. Now let's go back to yesterday when we traded US dollar Swissy short. And as I said at the time, I could make a case for this in both directions. And guess what? That's exactly what happened. It predictably somewhat, I guess, went to the bottom of the descending channel. No surprise there. And guess what it did? Like a big suction pump, it sucked straight back. You have a look at the now, the previous 4 days candles, they are all opposite and almost equal. So you've got a low test bar here, low test bar here. If that was down here, that would be very much a tweezer top, bottom rather, but this one here would be very much a tweezer top. So complete confusion here in terms of directional bias, but not so much, I don't think. If, as I said, as I say often, if this isn't going to go that way, it's likely to be going that way, but there's a massive problem if I'm looking to trade that. In fact, there are two massive problems, one being the weekly pivot, the other being the daily pivot, the monthly pivot. I like this now for a long, I really do, but trading it, phew, don't believe I can. I'd have to put my entry there or go a few more pips and put it above the weekly pivot. And then if we got something happen like that, I'm RS. I just think it's a dangerous ploy, frankly. So I want to see price get back into here, hit the monthly pivot, come back, maybe give me a low test bar off the weekly pivot, which would then be a higher low based on the double bottom, if you like. So that's kind of the plan. But like yesterday, as I said, there's also this very, very clear head and shoulders. The neckline is the problem. Where's your neckline? I've got to say the neckline's probably here, which is the bottom of that channel. So to trade it in the opposite direction, I'd have to be up here somewhere, or I'd have to break this level and retest it. So it's just too messy now. Break-even trade, frustratingly, again, it seems every time I trade the US dollar, it is a break-even trade. Pain in the backside, I've got to say. The other trade that we took yesterday was pound Aussie short, and that seems to be going okay. We have banked our first profit, obviously, and now we're looking for something a little bit better. Now, I did give you the management is simple. If we hit this level here, 182.50 as I've got it, then we'll take second profit, and stops definitely go to entry at that point. And I'll micromanage that later, maybe tomorrow. If the daily pivot drops again, I might be inclined to move the stop loss. If we hit TP2, that is, I might be inclined to move the stop loss just a little bit further down. So that one's going to be a winner, I believe, but we're not in cotton wool yet. I mean, we can't lose, but this is the third time. 1, 2, 3. Had I stayed in this and not done a thing, I'd probably be in a similar position to what I am now. We've taken, I think, 4 lots of profit on this, but I need someone to teach me how to trade trends, I think, when they actually occur. Lexi's in the room. She could do that. She could teach me how to do that, I think. What am I watching today? Well, there are 3 game changer bars. I'll quickly go through them. I'm not really keen on any one of them, I must say. CAD Swiss was the first. And there is the bar that is telling me this will go long. The issue I have is this level. We're at the highs, and that's not a place I like to trade. Look, to be frank with you, I can't see anything but this going through that level at some stage. But why now? Why would I say now is the time? Because oil's rallying, maybe. There's a little bit of question mark around the Bank of Canada. I'm not sure when they're meeting again, but a little bit of a question mark around that as well, I read yesterday. To me, this looks very much like a range, and I'm not going long here for love nor money. Won't stop it, of course, but I'm not going to take any notice of that daily changing. I've forgotten what I call the bloody things now. Game changer bar. There you go. I'm not going to do it. It's just not going to happen. The second was pound Swissy. It looks like the Swissy is out of favor today because pound Swissy was also a game changer bar to the high side. Look, I did consider this. And the reason I considered it because there was room to take profit before this, call it what you will. We'll call it the second highest swing. Yeah, look, I chickened out of that because I thought there might have been a bit of a retracement back to that trend line on a smaller time frame. And I don't know why I thought that, to be honest, but it looks like that may well be the case. It may not, because it's just come back to the breakout level. So if you're a fan of trading the ABCs off breakout levels, then probably you'd be interested here. I wouldn't be. Daily pivot's got to be tested for me. And I think also to go long, I'd want to see price get back under here and that usual scenario of a false break. The final, no, two more. Dollar Swissy and Dolly Yen. Now, Dollar Swissy we've already covered because we traded it short and we got TP1 and that's all. Look, I think the prospects of this going long now are high, as I said, but look at the resistance that you've got to get through to get profit in the bank. Love the candle. If the weekly pivot wasn't there and the monthly pivot wasn't there, then I'd be jumping all over this, but I simply can't. I've got to see this either come back to here so I can get profit before there, or I've got to see it break there and come back and then go. So that's that's Dollar Swissy. Final one is Dolly Yen, and same. It's looking extremely bullish, but how high can you go before you get a decent retracement? That's a great question. No idea, but I see an untested weekly pivot here. I am not going to jump into this long at that level, so I'd need to see it pull back substantially. Weekly pivot looks like a good level because it is the breakout level as well, so there's a bit of confidence going on there. I would be looking at that one for sure. My watch list today was Euro Pound. Now, these are not game changer bars, but Euro Pound because I don't know why that's there. Shouldn't be there. Because, hang on a second. Okay, because of this chart. So we spoke about this yesterday. We've got a descending channel, which was broken to the high side, hit a strong resistance level and forced price back into that range. And the retest that's going on now is very, very interesting. Now we need to see either the top of this range on a smaller time frame. Let me go there. So we need to see the top here. We've got a double bottom. We need to see the top here before we get a higher low. If we get a higher low in here, then my mind changes and we go back to this scenario where we've got to hit maybe the weekly pivot, I think it is, from memory. Let me go there. Yeah, we've got to bounce off here. It's a bad level to see on this chart for some reason. Let me go here. Yeah, we've got to bounce off here. So I've got to get to the top of that little range that we've formed, and then come back off at lower high before I can go short. And the same can be said before I go long. But I think long to go short is probably the best case scenario. Got a nice little trend line coming down here. If that is broken to falsely, then I think we're in business. Go away. So this is the idea. Up, consolidate, bounce off it, back underneath, retest it, go short. Got to have profit in the bank before that double bottom, however. So that was Euro Pound. I'm looking for that. You could even go long off a higher low to get that short in, right, on a smaller time frame. So if you get a higher low off the double bottom on a small time frame, trade it up to there and take your profit, then look and wait and see what happens. Euro Swissy is also at the top of the range. We haven't got a Euro Swissy chart. I will have in a tick. Stop that. Euro Swiss, top of the range here. It doesn't look like it on a daily chart, but if you go to the 4-hour chart, very, very clear what's happened here, and massive breakout, similar to what happened with Dollar Swissy when it got our TP1 and then just went kaboom. Got no idea why the market did that, but it has. And now we're looking to prove if that is a clear breakout or if it's a false breakout. So if price comes back in here, maybe even hits the daily pivot and gives us a lower high off this high, then we can trade it back to the bottom of the range. At this point in time, that looks as though the breakout is on, but as I said, it won't be clear until we get either a bounce off that, what is it, 107.25 or something level. And if we do get the bounce there, then the breakout is proven. If we don't and come back inside here, as I said, lower high, trade it short. Last one. And then I'm pretty much out of here. Aussie Kiwi, which is here somewhere. Aussie Kiwi, there we go. Now, I've been waiting on this Aussie Kiwi. I wanted to hit the monthly pivot, you'll probably recall, but I've got more lines on this chart than you can imagine. I'm going to say that if I do get a break of this trend line and a retest of it at the confluence area, which is what, 104.50 or something like that, I'm going to go long here. I'm keen to get long Aussie Kiwi. I wanted to do it off the monthly pivot, but we may have gone close enough to consider a long. Love the fact that we've got an untested weekly pivot up here, but I'm not sure we'll get to that level. You see this red line here, that's why it's there. I think the top of this range here may be as far as we can go without taking profit, that level there. That would effectively give you a right shoulder and a head and shoulders there. So I've got to take profit there or before there, just in case that is going to happen and we see price fall down to there. I'd actually be looking for that if that does happen, to trade that down to there. But long to get short makes sense. If it does go long from here, which I expect it will, anticipate it will at some stage, not sure on the timing, then we're in, and we could see this go a whole lot higher. It's got to break that trend line, of course, to do so. So long to get short on the shorter time frames until proven that this continues to go long. If we're in the long, we continue to take profit. So that's pretty much me. That's where I'm at. Pound Aussie's going okay. Again, I need to manage the breakout trade from yesterday. And if it does give me a lower high after breaking the daily pivot, then I will close this as a small loss and keep the other two in, which are in profit and trailing. So they should be okay. G'day, buddy.
Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm going well. Well, I think I'm going well. Go well, go shell.
We are. We're probably looking at shorts today in the foot. So I'll give you a little rundown of where we're at. I'm just seeing if I've got one more thing I can do here.
Okay, are you good if I push off?
Yeah. You go push off. Thanks so much, mate, for taking over this morning. It's been easy, very much appreciated.
All right, Lewis, what do you got, mate? He's going to show me a circle, aren't you, Lewis? You're going to show me a circle that's ranging? Please, Lewis, if you're not in a super rush, Ash.
Yeah, go for it. That'd be great.
Bamboo toilet tissues. Mate, I sell them. I actually sell them. But good on you for getting on board. You know what they're called? The ones that I sell? Who gives a crap? I'm serious. I'll show you some tomorrow. I'll bring it.
That'd be great.
I'll bring a packet in tomorrow. That might be the prize. I could do a prize, couldn't I?
Oh yeah.
For the quiz.
Yeah,
a bamboo toilet roll. Perfect.
That sounds good.
Thanks, Lewis. Like it. I'm going to go.
Okay. Thanks so much, mate. Really appreciate it.
Have a good one. No problem.
We'll see you tomorrow.
See you guys.
Okay, so we're on my screen here. So the footsies are short today, in my opinion, and it's a great entry price here as it goes. So if we bring this up here, in actual fact, let me bring it up with the pivots so you can see what's going on. Struggling to get above the daily pivot. Nice little short. There's a nice little 10 pip run to the downside. I would suspect. There we go. We can do that. Nice little run to the downside. So the target looks like it's this this lower trend line here. Now I wouldn't want to get caught in too much of a short, but that looks pretty good. And you've probably got a trend line up here if you wanted to put stops. 16s to, it's nearly a 1-to-1, and if you can get the closer you get to this this pivot, the more it is a 1-to-1. And realistically, the stop probably isn't all the way up here. It's probably somewhere in this zone here, because the FTSE looks like it's weak enough to not even actually get up to that point. And if we look at some of the other signals, which we will, this point here, this area here looks like the stops probably won't get hit, certainly at the higher level, because there's also a little trend line here as well. So probably there, that's the safest point if you wanted to take it. And now if you were to take it, you've got 15s up, 15s down, nice little 1-to-1 trade there off the daily pivot. And it looks weak enough. Now, if we bring in some of the other information, and I have to say, gold is looking ever more interesting to me. I want the dollar just to push a little bit higher, and then I'll be taking a trade probably in gold to the upside. Liking gold quite a lot at the minute. Every time there's inflation data, there is a spike in gold pretty much every morning at the minute, and we'll have a look at that as well. But let's just check out what we got here. VIX is just starting to show some signs of life. It's better on this longer term time frame here, but you can see just starting to show some signs of life here. Looks like an inverted head and shoulders coming into play, and we're at the lower end of that. So that suggests some volatility could start to kick in relatively soon. We also have the S&P having pushed to these highs. Well, it's not quite there yet, actually, so it might still have a little bit of a chance to push a little bit higher, but S&P obviously is going to relate to the VIX, and it looks like, you know, that there could be some volatility kind of kicking in relatively soon. I think because the S&P is exhausted, it looks a little bit exhausted here after 5 days of upside. I think a bit of a pullback is probably on. You know, some of these levels need testing. That hasn't yet been tested. This one hasn't been tested. So you would suspect the S&P would have a pullback. Whether it gets up here first is, yes, the question. So I think both those are possibilities. The dollar index is looking to me like it needs to rally a little bit. And if it does rally, then I'll be looking at shorting dollar pairs, and that will come into gold. This is where we're going to start looking at gold. So I think I was looking at with the dollar index somewhere around about the 80 level. We're at 93.77 currently. I was looking at somewhere around about 93.83. If that was to come into play, then I think a short in gold would be on. So I'd quite like the look of that. And now if we bring in gold, and we'll bring the pivots in again. I think what I was watching yesterday, which I thought was fascinating, was gold had a push to the upside, which was tradable. It's come down, completely ignored these pivots. It's not really showing any kind of respect for these pivots at all. So gold is starting to look really good. If we draw a trend line along here, this is what it seems to be hugging at the minute. Looks like these levels here. So much, it seems much more interested in the trend line than it does the pivots, which means it could push down here. But if this correlated with the dollar going to 93.85, then I would be interested in gold for some upside. So I'm waiting on gold. I'm waiting for a signal on gold, and I guess I'm waiting for Ainsley to see what she thinks about it. But they're the trades that I'm looking at. So as I say, I think FTSE short this morning is achievable. I think under the pivot down to around about the 71.70 level, so around about a 20 pip drop from where we are now. I think a long in gold is achievable. Further data from the UK. I mean, let's see what we've got kind of moving the markets as well. Let's see if we got that. Yeah, we got that. Further data from the UK, which is suggesting that that the pound may get a push. I think the concern for pound traders is that the growth in the UK may not be there, so it could be a little bit choked. So we're looking at CPIs at 3.1%. Not a good look for the UK, and I think that is adding significant concern, really. And we see gold, gold seems to push every morning. As I say, so it pushed yesterday, hasn't yet pushed today, so we might be waiting for something else. Mainly numbers from the UK so far. A little bit of CPI from Europe as well at 10 o'clock. So that might add to the picture as well. Might add to the global concerns that are out there. Canada CPIs. So we're starting to build a picture later by 1:30, and I think there's still just a little bit of concern about a choke in growth, and that choking in growth might well drive some of these CPI numbers. Sorry, some of these currencies, and the pound looks like an obvious one right now, because Andrew Bailey's already come out and said that he's great, Ainsley's here, fantastic. Andrew Bailey's already come out and said that he's looking at interest rate hikes. So the pound looks like an obvious one, but we'll see what this might well be what's going to drive the dollar. FOMC members speaking later on. Yesterday we had, I can't remember his name, the guy from yesterday, but he was this guy. Which one was it? Oh, it was Waller. It was Waller, and Waller was effectively saying. They still are under the impression that the inflation's transitory, but they are not committed to that particular thesis, and things can change, and they are watching the numbers. If the numbers change, then they're going to be sort of looking at potentially raising those interest rates announcements for next year, and definitely some tapering coming in. So that's where we are this side, Gold, I think the last 2 days has been really interesting. I don't know what you've been watching with gold, but I watched gold yesterday just above these pivots here. Now, because I trade on shorter term timeframes, there was quite a nice little entry to the upside on this 15 as it went. Where are we? Let me just make sure we got the right day that's showing us here. So we'll go back to gold here. Here we go. Oh, that was yesterday. How was that? Oh, sorry, this was yesterday. This was yesterday here. So yeah, so when we were looking at yesterday, this looked like a pretty obvious, an obvious trade from yesterday as we took out some of these levels. So this was the entry on the 15 as it broke through that little piece of structure there on the smaller term timeframes, and you can see that it's this point here. So we were through the pivots there. But it seems to be completely disrespectful of these pivots. I don't know what's going on here, but crashes through, crashes back, crashes through, crashes back. I'm looking at this trend line as the major level of support. Are we to ignore these pivots? I mean, I really like gold. Gold to me is looking like it's building a head of steam, and it feels like it's building some tension to the upside. But do you think that's the right way to be looking at it, or are we still waiting?
Look, I'm going to share my screen because you're looking at a 50. What are you? Hourly chart there.
This is the hourly, yeah.
Yeah, let me just flick over to mine because it'll show you something completely different as well.
Okay.
I'll share that. So have a look at this. This is a daily chart, and this is the level of support that I put on Sunday, and it said this is where. As you said, it's just totally disrespecting all kinds of levels. But what it did was on the information of the Fed, a bit dodgy about that whole transitory inflation BS. It took off, right? So that's the FOMC saying this is what we're talking about here. Look, straight up to the 200 simple moving average, bang, and then came back down again on the US retail price figures and came back down straight back into this level of support. Look at this level of support. It's not the pivot, that's a monthly pivot that we're looking at, the turquoise line, but the pink line that I drew is just bang, 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 bang. It's just I mean, it's boring. It gets boring. And as you said, it isn't building up the steam. And we promised chop, we promised, chop we got. So where this is going to go to from here, don't know. It's a really interesting thing. For me, I've got flat everything. The MACD is flat. The ADX is flat. The DI plus and DI minus is well below the 25. It's not really giving me any direction except for saying that the DI plus is still above the DI minus, which is okay. We're not going short, but we're not going long either. So we're sitting there just, as you said, spinning wheels and looking for more direction. And look, typically, and I'm hoping for the first time this year, that gold will start to respect some seasonality towards the end of November, which is, let's face it, 5 weeks away. Can you believe that?
Right. Yeah, and I suppose that's one of the key aspects here, isn't it? We're actually not in the season for a rally.
Not in it. No.
Are we nowhere near it? Is it what date does it tend to kick in?
Okay, so we're looking 27th of November, and then it has, depending on the year, had a tendency to come back, retest the lows of the end of November, retest, and then take off. So sometimes it comes right back down to those lows at the end of November before heading north, and that can sometimes take beginning in December, but then it gets its traction and off it goes. It's off to the races. But as you can see, as you said, you've got on the tail, you've got a low there, and then we've got higher low, higher low, higher low.
Yeah. Okay. And this looks like a bit of a base here. I mean, there's definitely some buying going on, isn't there? But but as I say, every time I wake up, there seems to be sort of more people sort of like starting to flood into gold. It's becoming quite volatile as well, isn't it? It just takes off and then, as you said, just goes bang bang. It's up and down pretty quickly.
Yeah, and we all like a good trend. We all like a good scaling, and we all like to make good money. But as soon as I get some traction, I just turn around. It's like, what the blue blazes is here? So as you can see, this isn't just, this nonsense hasn't been going on for a month or two. It started back in the middle of June. I've got nowhere to go to. I've got nothing to the upside here at all. You don't want to go short because there's nothing fundamentally, with all the hoo-ha happening in the US, there's nothing fundamentally telling me that gold's going to I was going to say drop its pants, but to absolutely fall down to some level like 1650 or your, I know you had a 1550 level picked out on a level, previous level of support. There's nothing that gives me that impetus either on a technical basis or on a fundamental basis to even look at that. And this transitory thing, I reckon I think they're just playing with our minds there. Because it's look, even if it was gold was serving as some kind of hedge, it clearly isn't. No. Not at the moment. So that's where it is. I mean, you look at it on it. I know you're looking at it on a 15-minute chart. My poor little head just can't process all that information. But you look at this. Look at the whipsawing the whole way back and forth. This is a 4-hourly chart. This is something that you could probably get your head around. But even so, that's just rude. You can't trade that and look for it to go to. Jeff probably could. I stand corrected. Jeff probably could trade that and go, top of that. But with gold, we're looking for some traction. I need for it to break above that 1831, 1832 level and really get going. That's where we're going to see it, Ash. That's where it's going to really pick up the steam and the momentum. And whatever happens in the States, there's no more stimulus. I heard something interesting. It was just like, of all the dollars, US dollars in circulation, 40% of those dollars were printed in the last 18 months.
Yeah. I know it's astonishing. And I suppose this is why we kind of like keep going back to this narrative of gold and as you say, that there are forces that just are against it's just not binary, is it? Because you've got obviously the dollar needs to weaken for gold to strengthen, and we've had a relatively strong dollar over the course of the last few weeks. those bond yields
Yes.
jumping to the upside so significantly, that's not particularly good for gold. But then on the flip side, this is all inflation driven, and the inflation's at a point which should be good for gold. So you haven't really got the perfect storm really for gold. You've just got so many conflicting messages.
Exactly, and that's why we've got that exact price action happening.
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, how likely is it that irons out? You know, how likely is it that from here on in we do get a weaker dollar being able to push gold to the upside? If we've got this inflation pressure, surely people will be thinking rate hikes, and if they're thinking rate hikes, then the dollar should, by definition, it should strengthen, unless they're worried about the choking of the economy, where that might start to come into play. If the economy starts to, if we get stagflation, which is I think seems to be the word on everybody's lips right now, that we might get stagflation, inflation continuing to rise, but economic activity actually starting to choke.
Yes.
And of course,
energy prices,
and the energy, the energy story, in actual fact, we don't tend to cover all, because we get so bogged down with gold, but oil as well.
Okay, so what's happened with oil? You can see is that an oil chart, Ash? I just changed it over. Yeah, we're good. Okay, so what we've got here is it's just consolidated this week. There is a lot of pressure that OPEC, again, were asked very nicely to increase supply last week, which, as you can see, they chose not to do. And it came down to demand is so high, and the pressure's there. We've got Northern Hemisphere winter coming on. We've got utility companies just shutting down all over the place. And, and then we've got good old Vlad saying, they were just saying, could you increase the gas supply? And he's going, no.
Yeah, he must love that.
Sorry,
he
guys.
Must be loving that.
That's not happening. So, you've got that kind of stuff happening. It's going to be continued upward pressure. Now, OPEC obviously still have a bit, a bit nervous after what happened in April last year, where they all thought they could control the market completely. That didn't go too well for them. With oil prices at zero. They've come back and they're doing everything they can in their power to obviously control much better the price of oil. And it was quite obvious they could control it last year, and it got away on the pandemic and too much chest beating and too much, obviously, testosterone in the one room, where everybody was going, oh, you're not going to tell me what to do, and you're not going to tell me how much I'm going to produce, and and that's what happened. So this time around, they are being really, really careful. So that's one of the reasons they are just, we're doing our thing. We've got a plan. We're sticking to the knitting. Okay, will prices go to, I still got a nice neat little pullback this week. But when you look at the daily chart, you can't keep going up at almost a vertical nosebleed rate. You've got to come back. I'll tell you actually what else is a nosebleed rate. And this is interesting as well. I'll just pop off this, but this goes to the commodity story. It's come back now, but have a look at the move last week on copper.
I watched it.
So this is the commodity story starting to unravel, and this is where you sort of think, okay, gold aside, because copper tends to be a bit of a lead-in for gold. Copper story, the copper that was available was at the 1970s low last week, and the LME, the London Metal Exchange, just went bananas. People were trying to get their hands on copper. So
what do you mean it was at a 1970? What, the price?
No, 1970s low of storage, that they didn't have enough copper to meet the supply. Yeah, there was just not enough copper around at all. The storage was completely
wow.
So that's what we ended up with this, like I said, almost you don't often see this, and it's one of those things. I saw the move and I went, oh yeah, that'll probably come back. And then I woke up the next day and went, what on earth? And it really, mind you, one of my alerts said go long copper, and I went, yeah, sure, and completely ignored it and went, shouldn't have done that. but yeah, that's where the pressure on copper has gone. So the commodities and all that revival of recovering economies is all tied up. You see this kind of thing, you sort of think, okay, which way can we skin the cat? And we've gone through the US dollar and inflation, and if they taper, they will push pressure up on the US dollar, put pressure upwards on the US dollar. But when you look at these kind of things, and for a recovering economy, and you're looking at energy, and you're looking at oil, you're looking at copper. Copper is a requirement for batteries. So they finally announced last week, $150 billion is required to overhaul the electricity grid in the US. Guess how much copper they sort of need?
Yeah.
So that aside, and that was something I've read actually about 6 months ago, and that was projected by the head of a copper company out of South Africa, I think it was. But, they're saying this is coming down the line. And that's where you're starting to see now lack of coal, lack of coal, lack of oil, natural gas. Natural gas is probably another one that should be ready to go. It's had a bit of a pullback as well, but expect that to keep going. I reckon we've hit a low. Look at that low in place. I reckon nat gas is, you get a close above that little bounce off the daily, and you've got a ring low. I think you've got a nice neat case of nat gas to the upside. And you have Vladimir Putin saying, yeah, well, no, we're restricting supply. It's only going to end in tears and a higher gas price, isn't it? It's got nowhere to go. So you start looking at these other things on the other side of what's happening to get some kind of explanation of, well, where can we go? But as I said, look at what happened to copper, look at what's happening with natural gas, look what's happening with oil and gold, and your commodities are all starting to bubble, boil, and trouble along the way.
Yeah, do you know? I think your point about the extended move and how it can get a nosebleed is quite a poignant one. And Lex has made it of a few comments back saying overextension on a lot of the Forex charts this week and no idea where to go. And I completely concur with that. When Jeff and I discussed trade of the week at the start of the week, and he said, what's trade of the week? And my things were like things like the Aussie. When I'm looking at the fundamentals, I'm like, well, the Euro Aussie short is a kind of an obvious play. I think Swissy was against something. It might be in the yen, or I can't remember what it was. But all the ones that I would be looking at because the fundamental aspects were overextended, and you kind of have to go. Well, you can't really go short. You can't trade the reverse because it's not. It doesn't seem to be the time. Yeah, it would probably be quite shallow. It'll probably cut you up. Fundamentals haven't started to kind of turn. There's no messaging that the fundamentals are turning, so you can't really change it against it. And yet you haven't got the price that you need to trade it in the direction you want. So you just have to kind of sit back and go, today, this week's going to be tricky. It's just going to be a tricky week.
Unless you're in on this kind of bar, which is always, I think it's just like the opening bar of the London session or the US session on a Monday, and you just go, a bit more information, and then it's like, oh, too late, bang, it's gone. And you're right. It's just everything seems to be. It's really one, as you said, the shallow. The retracements are shallow because the upward pressure is hard, but everything's overextended. And Lex is right. It's just this overextension, shallow retracements, and it's just like, well, where do you get in? And what does that do for your risk reward when you're trying to jump in and take advantage of some of these moves? So it's been a bit of a, and gold's given me no joy. And even the S&P, I was just looking at that.
Yeah, S&P is another one. Which is another. I mean, look at the extension on that. Yep,
bang, straight up, and it's just, I mean, toying with that. And I mean, I nearly sent Jules a text to say, "Oh, are we going long on the S&P because it's the third Monday?" And I thought, no, he'll just laugh at me because it's coming down. And then I went, yeah, should have done something.
Should have gone along. Well, I think
it's the third Monday. Hey, so he's right again.
The third Monday is an interesting one, isn't it? Because it works out so often that if the S&P has got generally a bullish feel about it, then the third Monday, you could almost increase the probability by another couple of percent. So, you're looking in the high 90s for the third Monday to be a rally, or to close above its open. And yeah, it's just going
crazy out for me.
What's going to turn it though? That's the thing, isn't it? Because we've got these supply issues, and I think we've got enough in the way of data that would provide concern, and we got enough in the way of central bank involvement that would provide concern, and yet the earnings, it has to be said, the earnings season so far has just come out, and it's hitting the ball out the park yet again. Netflix numbers are absolutely fantastic, and I think this the Squid Games show seems to be another driver. Have you seen it?
I was going to say, have you watched it? I haven't. I've read enough about it to go.
Oh, well, I watched the first 15 minutes, the first half an hour yesterday, and yeah, I have to say, so far I thought it was really good. I really liked it. I thought it was quite funny. I like the character that they're sort of like that they're kind of beating up on, but I haven't seen it. I haven't seen any more. And I think somebody said, Jeff said to me, "Don't watch it. It's like, really low budget." But I I quite like the fact it's low budget. It kind of it's got dubbing and stuff. I think what I like about it is that when I was a kid, the only way that you would interact with any shows from Asia was with dubbing. So it kind of brought me back to the the time where I used to watch kind of Asian shows with dubbing, because I would have been good enough to read. So yeah, I quite like it. So far. I don't know what happens in it. Apparently it gets quite brutal, but it's only a 15, so I don't know how it can get that brutal. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that develops. But Netflix is doing really well. The banks did great as well. I mean, you see
banks have done well.
The first week. It's just. I think it's quite tough out there, Ray. I think it's a period which is hard to navigate, because it feels like things have pushed to the upside, but this is where you get caught in the worst possible position, where you think, okay, gotta reverse now, and the market stays irrational longer than you can stay solvent, and it continues to push to the upside. So it appears like we're in that period with just out and out euphoria, which, looking at the sentiment cycle, would suggest that when a move to the downside comes, it may well be quite swift. But with that euphoric sort of like feeling seems to be still in play, and I think further pushes to the upside is probably likely. Where that puts gold, I don't know. Because the other thing is, any sensible investors out there would be going, right, let's get our stocks, no problem at all, but let's buy some gold at the same time, because then we're sort of like we're hedging on the way out. We're hedging all the way through. So if stocks roll over, no big deal. We've got our gold position in play. I would have thought that the gold is more likely to roll over when stocks roll over, because people just sell everything. It's just a fire sale. But I would have thought right here, while it's a bit nervous and they're having to buy, I would have thought gold should do quite well.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. When stocks drop, gold's meant to go up. But what we saw last year was when stocks had that, equities had that really big pullback, gold dropped as well. And what happened there was that people were having to sell their gold positions to cover their equity positions. So they both just went, because we I was like, what?
yeah. But the only way you can do that is if you buy gold at the same time as you buy equities, right? I mean, because you have to protect your position. I mean, so far that I know that hasn't happened. I mean, when I look at the gold chart on the longer term, it's still a bit concerning when you look at the monthly, isn't it? I think it still looks a little bit suspended up here.
Hey, let's just have a look at the monthly, or not. Oh, what's that doing? Let me just. Okay, let's just remove the pivots. Okay, what we have here though, do you see a close over the last couple of months under the 20 EMA?
It's a good point. Yeah. So the 20 EMAs are adding some support there. Yeah.
Support.
Yeah.
And that's look at it. I just want this back. I just want a couple of months of that. I'll be good. See you later. Holiday.
Yeah. The 1550 still looks to me like a bit of an area, eh? That's the downside price concern for me.
Sorry, hang on. 1550 was your little. All right, so in through there. But yeah, I get that. I would have thought that would have been a little bit. Maybe.
Do you know what? If you bring in just a little bit more data on the monthly,
I can do that.
if you can do that, yeah. You see there. That's why it's the lower end of the previous range there. Yeah, that's why the 1550 area looks to me like it's still, you know, a little bit.
1525.
1525. So it is circa,
in that zone.
In that zone, yeah. I rounded it up because it was the round number. So yeah, that looks like still a concern. Lewis looking at minimum of 1610. I mean, it might not get there at all, and I think that's the, you know, if you were to, you know, try and trade these numbers like on Bitcoin as an example, thinking it's gonna, you know, this is the low area it could come back to, you miss opportunities because when these things go, they just disappear, yeah. Right? And gold could do the same. We know that there's it almost kind of brings me on to the Bitcoin story in a way, because my concern with Bitcoin is that now the institutes are involved, price manipulation comes in, because we all know gold should not be at 1775. It should be nearer 7 grand probably. So the manipulation is sort of, you know, has now got the potential to start taking place in Bitcoin as well, which all of a sudden loses its appeal in the way that it, you know, where it was before, it's starting to lose its appeal a little bit because of their ability to manipulate the price, which they do with gold as well.
Yeah, but it's not manipulated as quite as overtly as Elon Musk sending out a tweet.
No. Well, no, but the institutes weren't even involved really then. Like now, they got the ETF, they got the SEC got their ETF. Yeah, they got their ETF passed, and interestingly, I was having this conversation with my buddy about this, and he was saying, now you got the institutes involved, you'll see them, you know, all go out and buy Bitcoin. And I was like, no, that's the whole thing with this ETF. It's a futures ETF, so they don't have to actually hold the underlying asset.
That's it. Yeah.
You know,
I mean, when you've got some of the big hitters like Jamie Dimon. Did you hear Jamie Dimon's comment last week?
No.
All right. So Jamie Dimon was, he was asked his opinion on Bitcoin, and he said, I think it's completely worthless. I think it's about to be, you know, it will be regulated out of its mind. And, but his investors are adults, he said, and he will provide them a service to be able to trade and invest in Bitcoin. He said, but, you know, I don't believe in Bitcoin, but that's not the point. I provide a service to my clients. So
yeah, but
and
then
John Paulson as well. Paulson,
what would he say though? Eh? What would he say? I mean, you know, you've got the product which has got the potential to bring down the whole of your industry. And they're asking you what you think of it. I mean, he's not going to say, oh, it's awesome, best thing you should go out and get. Because actually...
That's not true, Ash. Not true, because he's saying, I've got clients and I will provide a service to them to be able to trade it. So
yeah, I get that. But what about the feed? The feed through that is that the DeFi environment could completely make the banks, could make the banks, you know, completely useless. So I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that what he's saying was not a genuine comment. Maybe it was, but I'd be a bit more concerned about a banker telling me. I think it's the only thing.
Well, that's a bank. But what about John Paulson? So billionaire hedge fund trader from Wall Street, and he again said similar thing. And Larry Rubenstein, who is a journo interviewer, he said, are you short? If you don't believe in it, are you already shorting Bitcoin? And he said, no, I'm not, because he said the volatility is, he said, I can short it and it can still lose me money because of the volatility. So
Yeah.
as a fund trader, so you've still got this divided. So there's a banker saying that, and then you're talking about a really big time hedge fund trader saying, yeah, no, he's not touching it. So, but that's the thing, everybody trades different things. Not everybody has to trade the same thing, and some people are going to get better and have got their niche and their little hobby horse, and away they go. But you know, if you can trade it, then good luck, make money.
Yeah, I'm with you. I am with you.
It's trying to work out the fundamentals behind it, and how soon things are going to be controlled is going to give you a bit of an inside running as to how likely and how possibly quickly the velocity of a move to the downside, if certain things lined up, you know, like regulation, like you know, and China's moving along this way as well with how and what you can trade and what they're going to allow you to do and what you're allowed to be able to use. So there, and I know that's sort of like an extreme situation, because that's you're talking about complete control of your transactions. Different story. But yeah, I mean, if you can get on there and make some money, then that's what we're here to do. Just not to be brought out badly onto the downside if you're wrong, and vice versa. I definitely hear you, and I'm you know, I love the products. I've got to say, I love the products, but I don't like the way that it moves. It doesn't fill me with too much. It doesn't fill me with too much comfort, the way that the Bitcoin flips around all over the place. And as I said on the show a couple of days ago, I'm incredibly envious of people that got in, 7 years ago. But at this stage, I'm not that envious. I've got exposure to it with a stock. But I just couldn't justify buying it at 60,000. I've got a friend who won't leave me alone about it. He's like, buy it. I'm like, it goes against my whole philosophy about buying something when you're buying at resistance, you know, regardless of whether it's going to go to a million or not. It's, you know, and I understand the other side of the coin, but about sort of like saying, if you think this product is going here, why wouldn't you just get in? And at some point you have to cite. I mean, I know it's sort of I'm not suggesting that I'll ever get to the stage where I'm as good as Warren Buffett, but you have to kind of say what he always did was find the right product and then find the right price. So surely that seems to be the best approach here, because it's been proven over such a long period of time. So I'll be waiting until it's back down to $10, and then I'll buy some. 10. 10. All those grey hairs, honey. although you mine are all gone because I made it to the hairdresser.
Oh, well done.
Yes.
Well done.
out of lockdown, honey. So yeah, that was all very exciting. But yeah, it's just who knows where it'll go to. You know, so many people say it's going to become worthless, and then some people say it's going to go to 100,000. And plan B, what's plan B? End of October, 93?
83, I think.
83, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, over the last couple of days, it's had a reasonable move up. Move up.
Well, it's not a reasonable move, It's all-time highs. I mean, this is where we are. And Bitcoin's another one of those. You know, we just have been having a conversation about oil and gold and the stock market and currencies. Here's another one. That is at an all-time high, and another one where, you know, I said this on the show, I think, the other day, so I don't want to sort of like continue to repeat myself, but somebody said to me, asking a stock or a product that you really like to do another move like it's seen when it's at highs is like asking a marathon runner like Mo Farah to win the marathon and then go again and then go again and then go again. And it's one of those things, you know, you might believe in his skill, but it doesn't mean that you think he can run the marathon and win it, continue to run the marathon, you know, and win it, you know, 3, 4, 5 times over. So at some point you have to say, I love it, but it's just too expensive. It's just too much money up here. So I'm not participating. So That's where I am with Bitcoin. ADA, Lewis, I'm hanging on to my ADA for dear life. I mean, it's the news has got very, very quiet on Cardano, but you know, we while there's life, there's hope, and I think there are products due on Cardano that I think if they can get it right, it's still got a pretty good chance of being nicely embedded around about the $3 mark. So it could double from here, but we'll you know, jury's out right now. And it might be that by the time the DeFi picture has ended this time around, Cardano hasn't managed to rally. So I still like it. There's still certain things that I hold, but it's just not Bitcoin at this stage, you know, apart from the stock. Right, $10. Oh, I'm not sure about $10. I think three is as good as it gets for Cardano. Right, hey, well, let's wrap it up, and we got 4 minutes to the top of the hour. I'm going to continue to look at gold. It's pretty solid around about the 1777 on the day, and looks like it's hit that pivot and bounce. But the dollar is now at 93.84, which was my price point that I would have thought that would potentially start to find some resistance. So I think I think gold is still an opportunity for a long on the day. I think that today there's a long for gold. The FTSE has started to push to the downside, so anybody looking to that's managed to get into the trade in the FTSE needs a little bit more, about another 10 pips or so to the downside before I'll be trying to get out of that trade. I'm not going to try and stay in this one for too long, because as we've been talking about, I think it's difficult to counter trend trade this stuff. So if we've got a trade in profit, then let's just take what's on offer. Thank you so much, A. What's that?
You're a brave boy doing counter trend. See, you can do counter trend, Jeff can do ranges, and I just like, I get it so wrong.
Yeah, but this is, I think this is the almost the danger, isn't it, A? That you almost sort of like start devaluing your skill. Because if I could do, what is it that you do? Your main thing that I'm always very envious of is you're adding to a position.
Yeah.
Adding to a position, brilliant. You know, it's just so. Yeah, I mean, if we could all morph into one trader, I think we'd be.
Harry Hindsight's account would be fabulous.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's and that's the thing. It's just, isn't it? It's developing your own technique with what you do.
Yeah.
Getting used to it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I wish I had that in my arsenal, but I don't. So I stick to what I know. And it works for me. But yeah, I certainly wouldn't discount that your skill is equal, if not better, you know, considering what you did last year. So I'll be certainly continuing to listen to you for gold. And thanks so much for coming in and coming in when you did, because it was actually quite early today, and we've had a pretty nice time on gold and oil, which is important, I think.
Just watch those commodities, especially with the way everything's starting to recover. And I can say we're all starting to recover, because now that Sydney is out of lockdown, you know, the center of the universe.
Yeah.
Everything's starting to move again. But I mean, you look at, like I said, you look at things like Singapore Airlines has just whacked on 32,000 flights. And from, you know, coming backwards and forwards to Sydney and London and stuff, and a lot of them got just snaffled up over the weekend. That's not 32,000 flights, 32,000 seats. And flights the other day, my daughter went, she corrected me, just said, that's a lot of flying, Mum. That's a lot of flights. But yeah, I mean, we're doing quite. Yeah, Sydney has. Sorry, is that? Thought Sydney has reopened. Yeah, Lewis, we've reopened, but we've reopened in stages, which means that we have at 70% we're allowed some freedoms, and we weren't confined to 5 kilometres to our house, and then 80%. What has happened with 80%? 70% was some non-retail, and then 80% we have non-essential retail has opened up, so hairdressers and other bits and pieces. So, and people could go back to the office. But now we're at nearly 93% single dose in New South Wales, and coming up 83% double dosed. So that's pretty respectable. So,
yeah,
in the scheme of things, and that's 16 and above, but 12 to 15-year-olds have been given the vaccination. And I've got my two vaccinated, and they're coming up. They've only had access to the vaccine for about 4 weeks, and 12 to 15-year-olds, because they're going back to school now as well. I've got one back at school, and my oldest goes back next week. It's that kind of stuff. So they're all wanting to get vaccinated because it will go through their age group. Can't travel to, Gary, is that still, you're still restricted with, yeah, so we can't go to regional New South Wales because some of the regions aren't as well vaccinated as Sydney and, yeah, or Melbourne or Queensland. So we can actually get to...
hey,
I think Lee's taking his unmuted his mic by accident.
Oopsies. Yeah, so that kind of thing's really putting a lot of pressure on.
那个地上 spray 了，你觉得放下去啊东西。
That's okay. We're about to wrap it up anyway. So it's almost like when you kind of get a cross channel on the radio. We're trying to find the channel. Okay, so thanks so much for being here anyway. It's been really good to get your insights. Thanks to the guys in the room as always. Jeff and I will have a little announcement about no problem, Paul, about the show on a Tuesday and Wednesday coming up relatively soon. So we'll keep you posted on that. And thank you to Angel. I believe it's Angel that's been looking after us today. You've done a grand job as always.
Thanks, Angel.
We will see you on the flip side, guys. See you tomorrow for the quiz. Pop in if you want.
Bye.
For the quiz. We'll